Hey, Central Park Scoop, Rebecca Fawcett here. I am with Miss Keely Buchanan, who is going to talk to us today about Denver Public Schools Choice, which is coming up. It is January 13th through February 14th. Today we're going to go over a little bit of information for kids that are starting kindergarten through 12th grade. So I'm going to let Miss Keely take it away.
So just like not a large scale or anything, just kindergarten through 12th grade. My name is Keely. I own Colorado Educational Consulting, and I help Colorado parents navigate the search for public and private pre-K through high school. And we're talking about choice. So if you live in Central Park, or you're building in Central Park, or you've recently purchased in Central Park, you are legally guaranteed a seat at one of the 6 elementary schools within the Central Park Enrollment Zone, starting in kindergarten. Same applies. There's also an enrollment zone for middle school. There are 6 currently middle schools inside the Central Park and Shared Park Hill enrollment zone for middle school. So I'll just take a step back and we can talk about elementary at the moment. Choice opens in mid-January and it closes in mid-February, as Rebecca mentioned. But there's no upside to completing it early. The algorithm, the lottery doesn't run until after everyone gets everything in February. So other than peace of mind, there's no benefit to turning that in early. Good rule though, good pro tip is to get it done in January. So in case you have any issues creating your account, or there's any problems with your admission priority or your age verification or address verification, give yourself some time so that you can contact the choice office if there are any issues. So we get that done in January. And if we talk about elementary school, again, you're legally guaranteed a seat at one of the 6 elementary schools within the Central Park Enrollment Zone, but it doesn't necessarily mean your first choice, and it doesn't necessarily mean the school closest to you. And the school or schools closest to you are referred to as your proximity zone school or your proximity zone schools. If you live on the north side of I-70, you have 2. It's between Willow and Inspire. Those are both your proximity zone schools. And if you live on the south side of I-70, there are 4 proximity zones there, 1 for each of those schools. So I like to recommend that you start with your proximity zone school or schools, tour there first, because typically, and we dig real deep into this in my class, I have a class coming up December 11th, a live Central Park Enrollment Zone class. You can also view the recording anytime you'd like, where we dig a little bit deeper. But I want you to start with touring your proximity zone school or schools, and then ideally, if you have the time, I want you to tour all 6 of those elementary schools, because I want you to have the most control over where you're placed. So when you fill out your choice form, you create your account, you can list up to 12 schools total. So I would like to see all 6 of the Central Park Enrollment Zone elementary schools for kinder somewhere on your choice form. You might add some other schools outside of Central Park. There's some expeditionary schools folks are interested in near here. There's some dual language schools. Denver has Spanish, French, and Mandarin dual language public schools. Who knew? So you might be interested in something like that. You might be interested in a Montessori school. You might be interested in a charter public school. So you can list up to 12 for kinder. I would prefer you not have to, because that's a lot of schools to consider. But for Central Park, I want you to list all 6 of them somewhere. Even if you're like, Keely, I only want to go to one. It's, I live near Bill Roberts and it's Bill Roberts all day. Great, Bill Roberts is then your first choice. But I'd like to see the other 5 somewhere on your choice form as a best practice.
Yes, and to note that Keely can help you navigate all the different schools. Whether you do a private session with her or go to her class, she can help talk about a little bit more in depth about each of the different schools and what the curriculum might look like there for your child and where they might best fit in.
Yeah, absolutely. In the class, the Central Park Enrollment Zone specific class, we dig pretty deep into all 6. So we go through how big is the school, how many kids in kindergarten, do they have paraprofessionals, that's other people in the class. We talk about the student-teacher ratio, we talk about socioeconomic diversity, gifted identification, we talk about BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, and or people of color, we talk about before and after care, and one of the things that's changing again is school bell times, and so we actually talk about that as well. So bell times have changed at a very high level due to 2 things. Due to hiring bus drivers and being able to offer them full-time jobs, and also due to the research that shows us that middle school and high school should be starting a little bit later. So because of those 2 things, bell times changed for the 2022 school year, and more than likely will change again for the 2023 school year. So if you are touring schools now, which I do recommend, the best time to tour, November, December, January so that you can, again, ideally tour all 6. When you're touring, ask them, because typically who's ever giving the tour will be able to give you that answer. What are the bell times for fall of 2023? And that could be anywhere from as early as a 7:30 a.m. or 7:50 a.m. start to as late as an 8:50 or 9 a.m. start. So for some families, that could be a deal breaker. It's certainly something to consider.
Fantastic. So talk to us a little bit about when they do choice in, they list all their schools. If they don't get into, say, the first school, they would potentially the second. You can drop the first school if you go ahead and get your spot moved up in your school of choice, correct?
Yeah, so you list up to 12 schools. Again, we did a different video on ECE or preschool, and I do recommend listing all 12 for preschool. For kindergarten, first grade, I would love to help you narrow that down to 5, 6, 7, 8, but you can list up to 12. And then the algorithm is actually really cool. It was originally designed to pair medical students with residencies, and so the algorithm itself assigns each kiddo a randomly assigned lottery number between 1 and a million, and that is truly random. Then we use that lottery number and we award seats in numerical order inside of admission priority groups. And in the class, we go through the admission priority groups, and you can also access them. Each school's admission priority groups can be slightly different. And so basically, we fill the first admission priority group in entirety in order of lottery number. If there are any seats left over, we go to the second admission priority group, fill those in order of lottery number, and so on. And so once we pair, what happens is, let's say you put 6 schools on your choice form for kinder. You put all 6 in Central Park. If the system is unable to pair you with your first choice, which is best case, then you'll be waitlisted at your first choice and you'll be seated at your second choice. If the system is unable to pair you with your second choice, you'll be waitlisted at 1 and 2 and you'll get your third choice. But let's just say for a quick moment, for the sake of simplicity, you put all 6 Central Park Enrollment Zone elementary schools on your choice form. You submit it in January. You can go back in at any point in time before choice closes in mid-February, and you can move your choices around, just as an FYI.
Great.
And let's say you get waitlisted at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and you get in at 6. That's very unlikely. Something like 86% of Central Park Enrollment Zone families got their first or second choice last year for kindergarten. We'll update those numbers too when we have them. But let's say you're waitlisted at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and you get in at 6. There's a few assumptions parents make that I'll just go ahead and dispel. First of all of the schools kind of handle their wait lists on their own and independently. So you're not necessarily, and actually quite unlikely, to get a call in order. So you got in at number 6, you're waitlisted at 1 through 5. You could get a call, email, or text based upon your communication preferences from number 1 right away. You could just get a call from number 1 that says, hey, we have a seat for you, you can take that. That is then your seat. Or you could get a call from number 3 right away. And if you accept that seat, then your third choice becomes your seat. Everything below it leaves, drops off, but you're still waitlisted at 1 and 2. So you'll continue to remain on the wait list for any schools that were listed above the seat that you currently have.
That's excellent information. That's actually probably one of the top questions you get asked a lot. I know
Absolutely.
That's a lot of panic of everyone's kind of bumping up to the schools that they're interested in.
Yeah.
But that's really helpful. And I found that a lot of parents that didn't necessarily get into their first choice wind up loving the schools that they do get into. So that's also something to kind of pump the brakes a little bit, slow down, and really think if you put it in there in your top 3, there's a good chance that you're really going to love it as well.
Yeah, we buried the lead. That's a great point. Yeah. There's a reason you live in Central Park. The schools are amazing. Each of the 6 of them are unique in their own way. They're all really strong. They all have really high test scores and academic achievement and academic growth, and they're all unique in their own way. So when I work with families that are moving into Central Park, I say, hey, great news. All of the schools are really solid and strong, so let's just figure out which one might be a slightly better fit for your kiddo.
Perfect. I think we touched on mostly everything. Few generalized tips. Do not wait till February 14th to make your selections. Go ahead and start touring schools right now. You can tour all the way through January. You can even tour February if you want, but we do recommend doing that before choice starts. Choice starts January 13th and runs through February 14th. Keely's information is below, and her class is December 11th if you want to see her in person, or you can go ahead and sign up for her online class at any time. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thanks.